we'll start with Alan Quinlan, because I feel a wee bit sorry for you. You were so crestfallen when I went to you the last time. I want to see if you've picked up at all in the last couple of minutes.
I wasn't surprised. I'm not surprised Leinster won, because they're a brilliant team, and that's the reason why it's 4 in a row. Great squad, a lot of talent. The impact off the bench, you know, they're missing James Ryan, they're missing Will Connors, Gary Ringrose, Dan Levy. You know, there's guys that could have been involved there. Then you have Furlong, Sexton on the bench, Ryan Baird. It was Munster's best chance, because on paper we looked and said, you know, this is probably their strongest team in a while, most balanced team. A lot of their internationals playing really well. Munster were full strength, Leinster weren't full strength. And what really disappointed me, the fight and the pressure that Munster put on, and the way they never give up in the first half. It's so hard to get the ball back off Leinster. Bert will probably talk more about that, and Stevie, but you just can't get the ball back off them. They're so urgent, they're precise. Luke McGrath is just bouncing out of rucks, passing it, and they keep the ball really well. And they saved their best performance. We haven't seen that type of tempo consistently. They didn't go into their shell after missing those chances in the first half. They just came out in the second half, and it was incredible the way they kept the ball and just raised the tempo. So they only won by 10. They could have won by a lot more.
Yeah, I think when Alan was tipping Leinster beforehand, you know there's an issue, and I think it's not just Alan's. The Munster fans in general came into this game with trepidation. We were trying to find reasons why they could win, and Alan's mentioned them perfectly, but I also think that's in the players' head. I don't know if they really believe they can beat this Leinster team at the moment, and that's a worry, you know. And Leinster, in fairness, have put that in their head, and they keep hammering it and hammering it and hammering it. But I don't see the belief in that team that they came here today and thought they could really win.
I wonder, Birch, as a former Leinster man, if I could ask you, do you think the Leinster players were just rubbing their hands, saying, everybody is insane in the papers, people like yourselves tipping Munster? Did that give them a little bit of an edge? We're at home here, we're the champions, this is our trophy. Because it seemed to me like that was the case. You know, they were fired up for everything, weren't they?
But Leinster are able to do this all the time. Whereas, you know, Munster don't do it all the time, but we thought today, Billy Holland's last season, the emotion, CJ Stander, etc. But that's gone. That's not really there for Munster anymore. And emotion is still a big part of the game. Leinster tap into emotion. You don't have to be the underdog to tap into emotion. Leinster seem to be able to get that balance of emotion, physicality, smart, tactical game right, and just execute it.
And the other thing is, there's no crowd here today. That's why I thought it was Munster's biggest chance, because there's not 17,000 screaming Leinster fans supporting their side, the atmosphere building. Birch and I talked about it out on the streets, how quiet it was. We were walking down, there was no energy, no buzz around the place, and that's why I went, do you know what, this is such an opportunity for Munster. And if anything, you know, Leinster just grew into the game and they got better, and Munster went out the gate towards the end of the game, and they didn't have any answer for what Leinster threw at them. So for me, that's probably one of the biggest reasons. Is you talk about emotion and you talk about the atmosphere, it wasn't there today, and Munster still didn't perform.
It's a really worrying performance, isn't it? It's hard to kind of process it all very quickly, but it's concerning, and I think it's really key what Bernard says there, the psychological impact this will have. 6 in a row, it's never happened before. You know, you're talking about creating a legacy. You know, we've been criticised over the years. You know, stuff has been aimed at me for maybe being overcritical of the team. We won a European Cup in 06, 08. We won PRO14s, knocking on the door every year. And I love nothing more than this team and the team in the last number of years since I retired, that they create their own legacy, start winning their own trophies. But you've got to put up or shut up. And they didn't. Again, talk is cheap, you know. Like, in fairness to them, they know, and I'm not saying that they were out talking saying we're going to win this. They weren't. They would have been enthused by some of the performances during the season. Clermont, they were fantastic. We've seen a shift in their game, the execution, the expansiveness. We've seen them trying to be a bit more expansive, a little bit of Larkham stamp at times there. But maybe it's time now to make a bit of change and bring in some more young fellas, and at least if you're going to lose, that they'll learn from those losses. And look, I don't think it's complete doom and gloom here, don't get me wrong. I think Birch was kind of saying psychologically. Sure? No. I think the damage of losing that is, look, losing a final, even if you haven't lost 6 in a row, is very disappointing. You carry those final losses forevermore. It's incredibly disappointing, but I think for the Munster fans, it will be worrying and frustrating because there was that bit of optimism. So, but the optimistic part of this is there's still a lot of good young players that have come through in the last year. It's time to push them on a little bit more. Jack Crowley, I think he's a brilliant fly half, really talented player. Jack O'Sullivan, John Hodnett, Fineen Wycherley's been there. His brother is there as well. A lot of good players possibly there that can come in and add a bit of energy and add something a little bit different. So there's a lot of good players there, but it's a harsh lesson again. I've heard Peter O'Mahony a couple of times over the years, and what do you do after a game? We got to learn from it. It's not good enough, and unfortunately that's the case again today.